All right, so I'm sure all of that was a little bit confusing. So I just want to give you a quick walkthrough of what this actually looks like. So I'm using a free tool called SQL Pro. It's actually what I prefer to use when writing queries, accessing databases, doing everything you need to do within SQL client. And so SQL Pro, free, highly recommend checking it out. In addition to any of the other SQL clients I mentioned earlier, PHP MyAdmin, and the like, this one will work just fine. So I want to show you how you can actually connect to a database. So in my case, I'm using Heroku, so Heroku Postgres database. So Heroku is a free for hobbyists. It's a free service that basically is a really easy way to get up and running with a app in a matter of minutes instead of having to buy servers, deploy them, configure them, do all kinds of really technical stuff. And so it's great for people like me who are relatively technical, but also not a DevOps engineer, who just want to get started and build stuff for fun and to experiment, play around with things. So, for example, I'm going to name the database. So SQL Pro, I'm saying it's Heroku Postgres. It's a nickname. The host is what I'll pull here. And so what this is saying is this is the URL and the name of the server that is actually hosting my database. And so if you see any URLs like this, this is saying EC2, which is a elastic compute. It's a type of database that Amazon uses. AWS is Amazon Web Services. You'll hear that a lot when talking to engineers and developers. And so this is the URL where my database lives. And so my username is the following, pulled it from there. Database name, the following, pulled it from there. The port, password, and then you can also connect using SSL, which is a more secure way to connect with a database. I don't need to worry about that just yet because I have nothing of importance on this database. And okay, so that is how you connect to a database using SQL Pro. Like I said, this one is completely empty. So let's go through. I want to walk you through a local database that I set up so that we could write some test queries. So let's see what this looks like. So here is SQL Pro's SQL query engine. And so if you want to play with it, you can see the content. So here's the content that's in the country language table. Here is our bunch of data in the city table, more data in the country table. All of this is just from a publicly available world database that I downloaded. And so you feel free to play around with it. So this is saying when we're clicking around in this interface, these are the commands that are actually being run in the background. So you can see when just a second ago we clicked show table country, it said show create table country. So you can also play around with other things like triggers, table info, but we're really going to focus on the query aspect. So we've already connected to the database as shown in this part. So let's see. So list all databases. So let's do show databases. And so this is a list of all of the databases that are on my local machine. And so you can see the test database, which we just created a second ago. You can see the world database, which is the one we're in right now. SQL database, performance schema, information schema, hair eye color, which is another test database I loaded, and then Airbrake test and Airbrake development databases. So that's the show databases command. Now let's try running the use database. So let's tell SQL what database we want to use. So let's say world. And there we go. Okay, so now let's do the next step. So let's tell SQL, now that we're using the world database, let's tell SQL to show us the tables in the world database. So now you can see, imagine this wasn't here. This is just a simple SQL query table where we're typing SQL queries into, and it's returning values. So even if you didn't have this kind of this SQL client, like a SQL Pro or whatever, though it makes things easier, you can see that these commands, show tables, will return this information. So now let's see, describe table 9, and let's describe city. So this is another thing. So you can see that there are, the describe function will show you the different fields, okay, the different column names in that table, the type of data that's in each of those tables. So int just stands for integer, char stands for character, which means it's text. Null is essentially saying, is it open, is it not? This PRI stands for primary key. You don't have to worry about that. That really is only valuable if you're doing relational database stuff. As a database administrator, most marketers, growth hackers, PMs, any role like that will generally not have to worry too much about that. So let's see. So here are the fields that SQL is telling us are in the city table. Let's see if it's right. So we can go to city, select the content, and there you go. You can see the individual column names. So ID, name, country code, district, population. It's exactly what was shown here. The type, so this is saying the ID and the population will both be integers, which again, you can see they're all numbers. And so that just gives you a sense of what kind of data and what kind of queries you can use to pull information about your SQL databases themselves. So for example, if I had just gotten access to a database and I wanted to pull information about customers, or let's say I wanted to pull information about the districts where my customers work. So I would first want to see, that's where this comes in, because I first want to see, I want to connect to the database. Then I want to see what databases are available for me to search. Then I want to choose the database that I'm going to be querying, list all of the tables in the database, and then describe that table to get the field names so that I can write queries using all of this information. And so SQL Pro is just a good way to do that.